The day had finally arrived. The day I thought I would finally get the promotion I had worked so hard for. For months, I had been giving everything to the company, proving that I was the one who deserved to sit in that big, luxurious chair. It was supposed to be my moment. I had everything planned out in my head. The congratulations, the handshakes, the pride in my husband's eyes. After all, he was not just my boss, but my husband. Surely, he would recognize all the late nights and extra effort I had put in. The promotion meeting was a simple affair, just a handful of us in the conference room, everyone waiting for the big announcement. The tension was palpable. I could feel my heart race as my husband, the CEO, began to speak. He started with his usual small talk, joking about the hard work everyone had put in, but I could barely hear his words. My mind was focused on one thing, the promotion. It has to be me, I thought. I've earned it. I could already picture myself in the luxurious seat, my new title on the company email, my name being recognized. Then he paused. My heart skipped a beat. The room went silent. I could sense the moment was near. My husband glanced around the room. Then with a smile he announced, "And the promotion goes to Hazel." The room seemed to blur around me. My stomach dropped. Hazel? The woman who barely worked half as hard as I did? The woman who had always been a little too close to my husband, a little too eager to grab the spotlight? I couldn't believe it. I had expected my promotion, but instead, Hazel got everything. It didn't make sense, but it was happening, and I was left speechless. The conference room was buzzing with nervous energy. It wasn't a huge group, just a handful of us in the company's upper management team. I could see the others, all dressed in their best, eagerly glancing around. Some of them were making small talk, others pretending to read the latest company reports. But I knew what everyone was really waiting for, the promotion. As I sat at the long, glossy table, I tried to steady my racing heart. My eyes kept flicking to my husband, the CEO, sitting at the head of the table. He was calm, composed, as usual. He always had a way of commanding the room, and today was no different. He was about to announce who would be getting the big promotion, the one I had worked so hard for. I had been waiting for this moment for so long, my mind almost too focused on the prize to pay attention to the small talk. My promotion was more than just a title. It was proof that all the sacrifices I had made over the years, working late, taking on extra tasks, never asking for a break, had been worth it. It was my chance to finally take the seat that I deserved, a seat with the power, respect, and recognition that I had worked tirelessly to earn. My husband began the meeting with his usual, easygoing speech. "It's been a great year," he said, flashing a smile around the room. "We had challenges, but we've come through stronger than ever." He paused, his gaze sweeping over the group. I sat up straighter, trying to mask the fluttering in my chest. This is it, I thought. He was building up to the big announcement. He spoke for a little longer, outlining the company's future goals and plans. I could barely focus on the words. I was waiting for the moment when his eyes would meet mine, and the name I had worked for would fall from his lips. I could almost hear it in my mind. "And the promotion goes to..." But as the seconds dragged on, the weight of the silence grew heavier. Finally, he stopped talking and set down his notes, glancing at the group. His eyes lingered just a second too long on Hazel, sitting across the table from me. Hazel, my colleague, my rival, looked almost too calm. She was leaning back in her chair with a confident smile, her eyes gleaming with something I couldn't quite place. Was she expecting it? Did she already know? My heart skipped a beat. Something didn't feel right. Then my husband's voice broke the silence. "And the promotion goes to Hazel." The words hit me like a punch in the gut. Hazel? I blinked. Sure, I had heard wrong. The room seemed to fade around me, the sound of clapping and congratulations echoing in the background. I just sat there, frozen, unable to process it. Hazel? How could it be her? She had barely put in half the work I had. I glanced at Hazel, who was already standing, her hand extended to my husband. She smiled broadly, as if this was all part of the plan. My hands gripped the edge of the table, and I could feel the heat rising to my face. Was I imagining this? The applause continued, and I fought to keep the tears back. My eyes scanned the room. Everyone was congratulating her. Everyone but me. I had done everything right. I had earned this. But all I could do was watch as Hazel moved to claim the chair I had been dreaming of, the seat that should have been mine. Looking back, I had always been the one to put the company first. I joined this firm right out of college, eager to prove myself. My husband, the CEO, had been my mentor and partner in so many ways. We had started together, working late into the night to build something from the ground up. Over the years, I had poured my heart into every project, every meeting, every decision. I wasn't just doing it for promotion. I was doing it for us, for the future we dreamed of building together. But Hazel had always been a different story. When she first joined the team, I didn't think much of her. She was confident, yes, but there was something about her that rubbed me the wrong way. It wasn't just her ambitious attitude. It was the way she always seemed to be hovering, always trying to position herself just a little too close to my husband. At first, I brushed it off. She was just eager, right? Everyone was hungry for success. I told myself not to make assumptions. But as time passed, I couldn't help but notice how Hazel seemed to get all the attention. She had a way of getting into my husband's good books, whether through her constant praise or the way she would volunteer to take on the high-profile projects. She was always there, always front and center, ready to shine when the spotlight was on her. I tried to play it cool. Focus on your work, I kept telling myself. But every time I did something great, every report, every idea, every late night spent working, I could see Hazel in the background, nodding, agreeing, subtly positioning herself as the next top choice for anything that came up. It wasn't just about the promotion. It was the way I felt overlooked, the way my efforts seemed to always be taken for granted. I was working harder than anyone, but no matter how many hours I put in, how many innovative ideas I brought to the table, I couldn't help but feel like I was invisible. Hazel was there, always taking credit, always pushing herself to the front. And somehow, my husband seemed to notice it more than he noticed me. I told myself it was fine, that our personal relationship would keep me in his mind, that we would always have a bond stronger than business. But the more I worked, the more I tried to prove myself, the more I felt like I was losing my place, not just in the company, but with him. In every conversation we had at home, I tried to talk about the struggles I was facing at work, the feeling of being overlooked, but he'd brush it off, always telling me, "You're doing great, don't worry." His words, while comforting in the moment, never quite seemed to line up with what was happening at the office. It was as if he couldn't see how hard I was trying, how much I was giving. And then came Hazel, always the one who was right there when a new project started, always the one getting the praise, always the one walking into the boardroom with the air of someone who already knew she was the chosen one. I had been blind to it for a long time, but I finally saw the truth. Hazel wasn't just another colleague. She was my competition, but more than that, she was slowly taking the place I had worked so hard for, personally and professionally. And with the promotion meeting coming up, it all seemed to finally be coming to a head. The room was still buzzing with excitement after Hazel's promotion, but for me, everything had gone silent. I sat there, my hands gripping the edge of the table so tightly that my fingers were starting to ache. I could hear the low murmur of congratulations to Hazel, her laugh, a little too loud, a little too pleased with herself. It grated against my nerves, the sound of her triumph as I sat frozen in place, struggling to make sense of what had just happened. My eyes drifted to my husband, who was shaking Hazel's hand, smiling that proud, fatherly smile he always wore when someone had made a good impression. But this time, it didn't feel right. It felt like a slap to the face. Hazel? I couldn't stop thinking it. How had she earned this? It wasn't just the promotion itself that stung. It was the way everyone had acted, as if this was the most natural thing in the world. As if I had never been the one who worked tirelessly, who put in the long hours, who took on the extra burden. Everyone just assumed that Hazel deserved it. Why didn't I deserve it? I tried to stand up and leave, but my legs felt heavy, like they were made of lead. The air in the room was suffocating, and I could barely hold back the tears that were threatening to spill over. I needed space. I needed time to think. I grabbed my bag and excused myself, walking out of the room before anyone could say anything else. The last thing I wanted was for them to pity me. The last thing I wanted was for them to think I was a sore loser, even though that's exactly how I felt. Once I was alone in the hallway, I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart. But no matter how much I tried to calm myself, the thoughts kept rushing in. Why did he choose her? I had been waiting for this moment for years, working alongside my husband, dedicating my time and energy to this company, building it from the ground up, and in one breath, Hazel, who had barely put in half the effort, was now sitting in the chair I dreamed of. How could he do this to me? It wasn't just a job. It wasn't just a promotion. It was the way my husband had ignored me, the way he had failed to see all the sacrifices I'd made for this company, for our future. I had always been his partner, his equal, and yet here I was, watching as he handed that seat to Hazel without a second thought. Did he even see me anymore? The rest of the day passed in a blur. I barely registered the hours as they ticked by, too lost in my own swirling thoughts. At some point, I found myself standing outside the office building, the cold air biting at my skin as I tried to clear my head. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and I fumbled to answer it, hoping it was anyone but him. It was my husband. "Are you okay?" His voice was gentle, like he was trying to reach me through a wall of glass. I didn't answer immediately. I just stared at the ground, biting my lip to keep from breaking down. Am I okay? How could I be okay after everything that just happened? I don't know, I said quietly. I just need some time. "I didn't mean to hurt you," he said quickly. "It wasn't supposed to be like this. Hazel, she's just the best fit right now. You'll see, there will be other opportunities for you." Other opportunities? That was it? My entire future in the company, the one I had worked so hard to build, was being dismissed with a few empty words. I could feel the anger rising in my chest, burning to the shock and disbelief. Other opportunities, I repeated, my voice trembling. Like what? A seat at the table that I've earned? Or just another excuse for why I'm never good enough? There was a pause on the other end of the line. I could hear him sigh, the weight of his own guilt heavy in his voice. "You know I didn't mean it that way." But I did know. I knew exactly what he meant. Hazel had been the best fit for him. Not for the company, not for the job. She was the one who had earned his attention. Not me. "I need to go," I said, my throat tight. "I'll be home later." I hung up before he could say anything else. I didn't want to hear any more excuses. I didn't want to hear about how everything would work out, or how things would be better next time. As I stood there, alone in the cold, the weight of the moment began to settle in. I realized that I wasn't just hurt by the promotion. I was hurt by the way my marriage and my career had become tangled in a web I no longer understood. The betrayal didn't just come from Hazel. It came from the person I had trusted most, my husband. The days after promotion meeting blurred into one long, painful stretch of uncertainty. I went through the motions, attending meetings, answering emails, making polite conversation with coworkers. But inside, everything felt numb. It was as if I was watching my own life from a distance, unable to step in and control anything. Every time I saw Hazel in the office, a knot formed in my stomach. She walked around with an air of self-assurance now, her new position granting her a kind of confidence I hadn't seen before. She'd always been ambitious, but now she was untouchable. She no longer tried to blend into background. She stood out front and center, as if she had always belonged there. And I hated it. I hated the way people looked at her with admiration, the way my husband's eyes seemed to linger on her just a little too long during meetings. It felt like they were all congratulating her, but no one had even noticed that I was standing there in the shadows, quietly falling apart. At home, things were worse. My husband and I barely spoke. When we did, the conversations felt hollow, strained. The distance between us grew with every passing day. I tried to talk to him, to make him see how hurt I was, but the words never came out right. Whenever I mentioned how disappointed I felt, he would brush it off, as if it was just a misunderstanding. "It wasn't personal," he'd say. "You'll get your chance. Just be patient." But patience had never been the issue. It wasn't about waiting for another promotion. It was about the way he had dismissed everything I had worked for, the way he had failed to see how much I had sacrificed to the company, for our shared dreams. He didn't see me anymore. He saw Hazel, and that hurt more than anything. Every night, I lay awake, tossing and turning, replaying the scene over and over in my mind. Why her? The question echoed endlessly in my head, growing louder each time. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had been overlooked, not just as an employee, but as a wife, a partner. How long had Hazel been slowly stepping into my place without me realizing it? The anger inside me grew like a wildfire. I wanted to scream, to confront him, to demand that he acknowledge me, the real me. But every time I tried, the words caught in my throat. I didn't know how to say what I was feeling. Was it even worth it? Could we ever go back to the way things were? I started to feel like I was losing myself. The woman who had once been confident, who had known her worth, was disappearing. In its place was a woman who questioned every decision, who doubted her value. I found myself looking at Hazel with a mix of envy and disgust. She had taken what was supposed to be mine, and now everything felt like it was slipping away. I even started doubting my own abilities. Had I really been as good as I thought? Or had I just been fooling myself all along? Maybe Hazel was the better choice. Maybe my husband had made the right call. But if that was true, then why did it feel so wrong? Why did I feel like I was suffocating under the weight of this betrayal? The hardest part was realizing that I couldn't just blame Hazel. She hadn't made the decision. My husband had. And every time I looked at him, I saw the man who had promised me we would always be a team. But now, I couldn't shake the feeling that he had chosen her over me, not just in business, but in life. The tension had been building for days, weeks even. Every time I looked at him, I saw the man who had once been my partner, someone I trusted above all others. But after the promotion, all I could see was a betrayal. I could feel the weight of everything unspoken hanging between us, pressing down until I couldn't breathe. That night, I couldn't hold it in any longer. Why, James? I asked, my voice trembling. Why her? After everything we've been through, why would you choose Hazel over me? He flinched, a flash of guilt crossing his face before he masked it with a sigh. I told you it wasn't personal. Hazel was the best fit for the role right now. You know that. But I wasn't buying it. Not anymore. Don't give me that. I snapped, my voice rising, frustration boiling over. I've been giving my all to this company for years. I've worked harder than anyone. I've sacrificed so much, and you, watch me pour my heart into this place while you handed a promotion without a second thought. How could you do this to me, James? He stepped closer, his hand reaching out as if to calm me, but I pulled away, my heart racing. It's not about who works harder. It's about who's right for the job, he said, his voice softer now, but the words still stung. I didn't choose Hazel to hurt you. She's just in a better position to lead at this time. It's not that simple. No, I said, my voice steady now, though the hurt in my chest felt like 1,000 shards of glass. It's not just about the job. It's about us. I thought we were a team, James, but you've picked her over me. You made it clear that she's the one you trust. And you're breaking me. The silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. He didn't speak right away, and I didn't know what to say anymore. I had laid it all out there, the hurt, the anger, the betrayal, and yet I wasn't sure if he truly understood. Finally, he spoke, his voice quiet but full of regret. I never meant to hurt you like this. I've been blind. I see that now. But it was too late. The damage was done. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't sure if we could fix what had been broken. The days after the confrontation felt like a blur. My emotions were still raw, but something had shifted within me. The anger and hurt were still there, but I no longer felt like I was drowning in them. I had finally said everything I needed to say to James, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a small sense of clarity. We didn't immediately fix everything between us. In fact, things were still tense, and I could feel the cracks deepening in our relationship. But the weight that had been holding me down, the feeling of being trapped in a life that wasn't my own, began to lift. For the first time in years, I could breathe again. I threw myself into work, not for validation, not for anyone else, but for myself. I realized I had been living in the shadow of my husband's decisions, always trying to please him, trying to prove that I was worthy of recognition. But I had lost myself in the process. I started taking on new projects, ones that excited me, ones that challenged me. I no longer waited for his approval. I didn't need it. I began making my own decisions, building a reputation that wasn't tied to him or the company. There was a strength in that, a kind of power I had forgotten I had. James and I spoke less in the days that followed. We both needed space to think. I couldn't pretend like everything was okay, but I could no longer live in resentment either. It was clear we were at a crossroads. Our personal and professional lives had become so intertwined that we needed to figure out who we were, both together and apart. One evening, I found myself standing in front of the mirror, staring at my reflection. There was a sense of pride in the way I looked at myself now. The woman staring back wasn't the one who had been content to sit in the background. She was strong, determined, and ready to forge her own path. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, I was excited to see where it would take me, whether it meant staying in the company, pursuing new opportunities, or taking a step back to reevaluate everything. I didn't know. But whatever it was, I would be doing it for me, and that was the start of my new beginning. In the end, the promotion wasn't just about the job. It was about my journey of rediscovery, of reclaiming my confidence, my worth, and my place in the world. Hazel's rise wasn't defeat. It was a catalyst for change. It forced me to look inward, to see the woman I had forgotten amidst the chaos of expectations and disappointments. I'm not the same person I was before the promotion meeting. The woman who once depended on others' validation to feel whole is gone. Now, I know my value isn't determined by a title or anyone else's approval. I'm building my future one decision at a time on my own terms. As for James, our future is uncertain. I can't say what will happen between us, but I've learned that my happiness can't be tied to anyone else's choices. I deserve to stand on my own, regardless of who sits at the top. The road ahead is still uncertain, but it's mine to walk. As I take each step forward, I carry with me the lessons of the past, the strength to rise above and the courage to embrace a new beginning.